Hey, ESPN, I'm Jack.
And I'm Miles from the Daily Zeitgeist, a daily comedic news podcast that answers the question,
what if Stephen A. Smith spoke at a normal volume and his opinions were based on fact and not completely insane? This probably isn't the best way to describe this.
No, you just negated the two things Stephen A. Smith is known for.
Okay, what if The Daily Show was hosted by us?
Yes, but who is us?
Okay, I'm Jack. I'm the co-founder of Crack.com.
And I'm Miles. I love soccer and get very nervous when I'm pulled over by the police.
He's also a former lobbyist who quit politics for comedy.
Yeah. Well, look, we covered news, the president, pop culture, and we're both very big sports fans.
I'm actually named after my grandfather, legendary NBA coach and ESPN alum Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm named after Miles Davis, the legendary heroin addict who is not my grandfather.
So search the Daily Zeitgeist. If you don't know how to spell zeitgeist, like most of us, just type in Daily Z. It'll figure it out for you. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the dirt. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax.
We're Jalen and Jacoby, and it's Friday. What do?
We give the people what they want.
So ever since we moved to TV, you know, it's just more of a production. There's more executive involvement, and people tell us what stories we can't do. And, you know, people are just involved in what we do a little bit more. But we can always do these podcast exclusive segments where we can put some of the too hot for TV topics in. This is one I wanted to talk to you about so bad. And I'm so glad we have the opportunity to do this because I can talk about this for 4 days in a row. The CEO of the drug company Nerera, I believe that's how it's pronounced, Nerera, reportedly spent about $5.9 million on his company's corporate card. He did this. Think about this. This is over the course of about 18 months. $5.9 million, Jalen Rose. You listening? He did this with an escort that he met on Backpage.com. Analysis conducted by Nerera found that more than 8,800 improper charges were to the company credit card between November 2015 and mid-March 2017. That's less than 2 years. 8,800 charges, Jalen. $5.8 million of the company's card. That included money to front the escort's spa, plastic surgery in Miami, 2 Rolex watches, a personal driver for her daughters, a maid, 2 purebred dogs, and numerous trips to locations like Bali, Hawaii, France, and Costa Rica. What do you think happened here?
8,800 charges, that equals 16 charges per day.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't think that your math is appropriate.
But however the case, here's what I have to say.
Okay.
I don't want to necessarily go too hard on him. Here's why. He clearly has a problem and he's an addict.
He did. Well, he said that he was looking for love and he thought that all of this would eventually lead to a family. But look, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be real. I have a corporate card. And sometimes these dinners become expensive. Legit business dinners, and you get the bill, and you're like, man, that's $400? You're like, whoa, wait a second. Like, I got to expense this. And I'm just like, oh, man, and it makes me feel a certain way. But $5.8 million, Jalen? $5.8 million? Like, what is the limit? How much credit does this card have on it? Like, how do you spend $5.8 million of a company's money and not think that somehow, some way, somehow it's going to get back to you?
Or if you're a company, how do you allow an employee to have a $5.8 million credit line?
I don't know there's probably he probably did some massaging and some financial this and that and transferring and wires and all of this, but just the idea that he sacrificed this much money to maintain this relationship with someone that he met on Backpage.com is very concerning. Also, this is not a low-level person. This is the CEO. If I'm the employee of this company, I'm like, this is our leader? This is our leader? This is the person who I've invested my time and energy into, this company that I wake up every day and work 40, 50 hours a week for, is the leader of that company is spending $6 million on Escort?
But that gives hope to those who live that lifestyle that sucker for love gentlemen like him exist.
Shout out.
But here's what ends up happening. What ends up happening is all that stuff gets repossessed and, you know, there are going to be charges. It's total mess. You are right. We shouldn't go too hard on this person because there has to be some deep psychological issues. You know what I mean? Because we all have like an internal moral compass. We all have something inside of us. Like when I feel guilty about something, I know I've done something wrong. When I have a clear conscience, I know I haven't done something wrong. But this gentleman has to go to sleep at night after he spent $100,000 that day on, this Escort's expenses. He has to go to sleep and be a little bit concerned about it.
James Harden, that's it? Y'all making us 5.8? That's all?
He got a deal.
Man, please. My jersey retired.
There was a $24,000 charge to move her potted plants from her home into his home. $24,000 to move potted plants, Jalen. $24,000.
Not going to be able to do it.
This is such a strange story. It was reported in the Daily Mail. I can't sit here and act like it's totally facts because it's so crazy. How do you spend $6 million in 2 years? Like, how do you even do that?
You don't spend $24,000 for potted plants. That's clearly what he put as the line item, but that wasn't necessarily what was taking place. And I'm not going to draw any conclusions based on either.
That's an insane story that we can't talk about on Wax, and that's why we give you exclusive content on the podcast. Obviously, we're going to pivot, and talk about everything that's happening in the world of sports today, but this is something I want to talk to you about because it leads to a bigger conversation. There's new images from the Texas football locker room, right? Instead of nameplates on the lockers, they have 43-inch monitors displaying pictures. They've got everything you could possibly ask for. It looks like a spa in there. It is pristine and perfect. They have all this money they can spend on a football locker room, yet they cannot pay the athletes. What does that tell you?
It's It's almost like a slap in the face because on one hand, we know that you're here, you're on scholarship, so you're going to enjoy the shiny toys.
Yep.
And so it's almost like the R. Kelly story that we talked about. An adult using his age and influence really to take advantage of a younger mind. And when you walk into that locker room as a recruit, what are you going to say? Oh, wow, this is
could
amazing.
Be me. They've got a picture of me. This is the coolest. I can't wait to play for this program.
No question about it. And as a player, you're going to enjoy it so much so you're going to be changing the pictures like I change them in the studio often. Like you're really going to get involved in it. You're going to get excited about it. And then you're going to sit down one day, especially those that aren't going to the NFL, and you got a sore shoulder, and you got a busted knee, and you're like, wait a minute. I got my scholarship dollars, but they can't pay me cash. I can't make money off my likeness. I can't get a summer job. I can't have a YouTube channel where I'm promoting myself to get paid. Unless I'm Johnny Manziel, I can sign cards and get paid for it and get away with it. But either way it goes, I appreciate the program really wanting to, quote unquote, invest to try to make the athletes happy and comfortable. But that situation where we call, quote unquote, student athletes has literally become a mockery. And I've talked about this for 25 years, and I'm happy to see so many people for public consumption have just changed the thought of, well, just shut up, you're on scholarship and you should just be happy, until you realize the multi-millions of dollars that so many people are making on the backs of these athletes.
Aaron Rodgers told Dan Le Batard that he records his conversations with the media to guard himself from being taken out of context. What does that mean to you?
That's a boss move. He's protecting his best interest. As a superstar level athlete, what happens? Somebody talks to you and y'all could be talking for 5 minutes. What do we do at the bottom of the screen? Take a little piece of it.
Take that tiny little half sentence that's the most inflammatory.
Take a couple of words that we consider buzzworthy and now turn that into a story.
That's kind of what happened to Jamal Adams. Now, while he said something crazy, the football field's a perfect place to die, when you look at the whole rip and you watch the whole clip, he says, I live this game, I breathe this game. You know what I mean? He sets it all up, but you can see how he kind of like gets there. He's just kind of trying to put a button on his statement, and we only take the button and not the entire statement. I would never record a conversation because it's just logistically difficult. You got to get the sound right. And what if you're on the phone, you got to use that voice app. And then the file's so big you can't email it to somebody. And then if they do take you out of context, you got to open up that 20-minute file and find the part. It just seems just logistically and technically difficult. I don't think he actually does that, but it's a good idea. Shout out to you, Aaron Rodgers.
Shout out.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. If you leave us a voicemail, we'll play it in the pod just like this.
What's up, Jalen Jacoby and Jalen? How y'all doing on this wonderful fine day? I appreciate you guys for everything you do. This is Otto Bots calling, from Pasadena, California, calling by way of Brisbane, Gold Coast, Australia. Question, man. I wanted to know, this is questions for both of you guys. I wanted to know, with the increase of AAU basketball, how much does it affect, prestigious high school basketball teams? Will it take away from kids wanting to, play at, these great popular high schools? High schools, I can only speak for high schools, and from where I'm from, Pasadena High School, John Muir High School, or Modern Day, things like that. Thank you, appreciate you, and keep giving us what we want.
Thanks for the love, appreciate the shout.
Shout out.
Here's the difference, and here's what is taking place. Playing for your AAU team has become just as important, if not more important, than playing for your high school team.
Mm-hmm.
Because of a couple of things. AAU usually has a sponsor.
Yep.
Also, the camps a lot of times are more noteworthy and are national.
Well, what happens is scouts can go to one location to see kids from all over the country via AAU. They don't have to fly to Des Moines to watch that player in Iowa. They can wait till he goes to an AAU tournament and watch the player from Des Moines, the player from California, the player from Florida, and everywhere.
And other reasons, too. There's a level of accountability you have to have as a high school athlete that you don't as an AAU athlete. Number one, you got to be eligible to play for your high school team.
Good point.
Number two, you have to actually take care of business in your school, in particular with your coaching staff, in order to be able to perform. With AAU, you're usually playing, quote unquote, on what's considered local all-star level teams, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. But here's a challenge I have for American basketball. There's an influx of cash that so many people get. I'm talking about the shoe companies, collegiate, and professional. Here's what truly needs to happen to advance the game of basketball and our players. Can we get a shot clock? Seriously.
Good point.
There are about 8 or 9 states that play with a shot clock. And so many different rules. The ball size is different. The lane line is different. The time of games are different. Are we playing 4 quarters? Are we playing 2 halves? Is it 32 minutes? Is it 40 minutes? The 3-point line is different. Can the rules be a lot more universal like they are for the international prospects? This is why they come along and they're a lot more advanced, because they get a chance to play professional basketball. And by the way, how about this? As an international player, you could come straight to the NBA without having to go to college, and nobody frowns at it.
Mm-hmm.
But why all of a sudden, if I'm born in the United States, you're forcing me to go to college? Talk to me.
Let's listen to another voicemail.
Hey, what's up? This is Andy, Indiana University alumni here. I just saw the segment about U of M being the Ivy League of the Midwest or whatever. No, Jalen. Sorry. No. Northwestern alumni, if nothing else, are probably really upset that you said that. They're obviously the best college in the Big Ten and probably the Midwest, too, that actually has sports teams. Anyway, big shout out to y'all. Love your show. Jalen, former Pacer, huge Pacers fan. I grew up an hour from where Damon Bailey grew up. Like, great. Love your stuff. I know you're not going to play this on TV, but thank you so much for doing what you do. Love you, Jalen. Peace.
Love you too. Thank you for the shout.
Shout out.
Northwestern. I have a lot of love for that university, and so does this network.
We have a lot of colleagues that went to Northwestern.
No question.
There's a pipeline.
Mike Wilbon.
There's a pipeline between Syracuse and Northwestern right to Bristol campus.
Wilbon, Jay, Donde.
Doug Collins.
Greeny, Cassidy.
Yep. A lot of Northwestern. The great Juliet Littman, the legend Littman.
So
Rafe Bartholomew.
I understand that level of thinking, but we got to thumb wrestle for that title then.
No, you don't. It's Northwestern's. I'm going to let you have it just because, you're here and it's not worth arguing with you because you're pretty stubborn. But it's not even close. It's not even close. You guys got a better football team. They got better academics. It's just the way it is. Let's listen to another voicemail.
What up, though? This is Edward from Detroit East Side. I just want to make a stand on the show today, brothers. If they do not sign Colin Kaepernick this year, I'm not watching football. I ain't playing fantasy. I ain't even going to watch the highlights. If the highlight show is on, I'm not watching the highlights, period. Because I'm a person, a black person at that. Peace.
Thank you for the love. Appreciate the call. One of my favorite calls. But hold on. You must watch our program, even if Colin doesn't get signed, because we're going to keep you informed of what's going on not only in sports, but pop culture. But here's the reality, and it stinks. The NFL has become a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, so much so that the players play under so many constraints, including non-guaranteed contracts, because they fear going on strike, A, because they're going to miss checks, B, because they feel there'll be replacement players that people will still pay to see because people pay to watch the helmet, not necessarily the individuals playing inside of them. So I appreciate your passion, and I do think, like you, that Colin deserves to have a uniform on.
He's going to play. Colin's going to play. He's going to play football. I promise. Colin will be signed by a team by the end of this year. Because here's the thing. People are not going to revolt if you sign him to your football team, especially if your football team needs a quarterback. Do you know what football fans like? Winning games. They're concerned about politics and they're concerned about everything else in their life. But when it comes to Sunday, they want to see that their team is going to win games. And Colin Kaepernick will give you a better chance to win games than your backup quarterback that all of a sudden got thrust into the starting quarterback position. It's just that simple. It is somewhat of a meritocracy. Also, let's say that I'm the type of person that just absolutely cannot stand what Colin Kaepernick did. If I'm that type of person, I just think that Colin Kaepernick just represents just disrespecting the flag and the military and everything and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to stop watching football because he's on the team. I'm not going to stop going to games because he's on the team. I'm not going to burn up my sweatshirt that has whatever logo on it because he's on the team. I'm going to complain a little bit to my friends over beers at the bar, and I'm going to still end up going to the game and rooting for my team on Sunday.
Great point. And also, I don't appreciate the negative spin that's being projected around this story, not only whether it's Steve Bisciotti, owner of the Ravens, or the media, because we're continuing to talk about the fans that may not like him being signed. What about the fans that helped make his jersey one of the top sellers in the game?
Exactly.
And also, I look at a city like Baltimore, and they've had some issues in their community, in particular recently with the potential planting of evidence on a suspect. And you could go back within the last 12 months where there was picketing and or rioting based on some of that behavior that has taken place with people that were quote-unquote apprehended. So more than just being a backup quarterback for the team, he could actually be somebody that's making a difference in the community.
Reggie says we have one more voicemail. I'm skeptical.
Jalen Jacoby, what's up, guys? This is Jacob calling from North Carolina. Longtime listener to the pod, going back to the days of Jalen blaring his music and covering up his windows with black sheets in Indianapolis. With that said, I do have two questions and one thought I'll try to share briefly. First question, soft move or boss move? I'll first state, I'm a proud alumni of East Carolina University. So the soft move or boss move, when Jacoby was cracking on the university for spelling a word wrong, he improperly stated the name of the university as Eastern Carolina 3 times in the segment. So soft move or boss move there, guys. Second question, somewhat for Reggie. Jalen's acknowledged, and I agree as well, Paid in Full is a classic where Cameron killed it as Rico in the movie. Reggie's not a fan of Cameron behind the mic, but what about Rico? Third, idea for Jalen. Always supportive of JRLA. However, not everybody is able or willing to donate, maybe as much as they like. Putting an idea out there for you to possibly start selling the Jalen Jacoby shirts, with proceeds going to JRLA. So anyways, guys, thanks for the pod. Keep giving the people what they want. Peace.
Shout to you, Jacob. You know what? Sometimes you have to look in the mirror and just admit that you were wrong. I got the name of the university wrong while I was clowning the university. Okay? It's East Carolina University. I said Eastern Carolina University. I offer no excuses. I just offer my apologies because that's how adults behave.
And I can't front. I know how to spell scholarship. I actually got one.
Okay, say it right now. Spell it right now. Spell it right now. Spell it right now.
SCHOLAR. SHIP. I'm the founder of a high school. If I don't know how to spell that.
Is that right? Control room, is that right? Is that right? Yeah. All right, he got it. I spelled it wrong twice when I tried to spell it.
So we appreciate the call, and thank you for putting Jacoby in check about getting it wrong, because if you notice on this program, they clown me about the movie plots. They clown me about spelling words, whether I know how to spell them or not, and or pronouncing things wrong. I'm finally glad my handsome partner finally gets an opportunity to get clowned.
I don't mind getting clowned as long as I'm being called handsome in the same sentence. I'm good with it.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Vasil Lomachenko defends his WBO junior lightweight title against Miguel Mariaga at the Microsoft Theater right here in Los Angeles, right across the street. And we are joined by the promoter of that fight. Thank you so much for making time to join us here on Jalen Jacoby. Bob Arum is with us. How are you doing, Bob?
Really good. Pleasure to be here.
What do we need to know about these fighters and this fight for Saturday?
Well, I think what you really need to know is Vasil Lomachenko is the greatest fighter that I've seen in 51 years in boxing since Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
There's been nobody that even compared to him. Certainly the greatest amateur that ever lived, 2 Olympic gold medals, 2 world amateur championships. In the professional ranks, he's been tremendous. He's won 2 world titles in 9 fights. Nobody fights like him. A great defensive genius, but unlike other great defensive fighters like Floyd Mayweather, who wins fights on points because he throws more punches, Vasil always looks for an opening and will close the show by destroying his opponent. In other words, he multitasks. He's a great offensive fighter and the greatest defensive fighter that I've seen. Taken all together, he is the best since Muhammad Ali. I mean, my matchmaker, Bruce Trampler, compares Lomachenko against other greats. You know, Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler, Salvador Sanchez, Alexis Arguello. And he tells me Lomachenko would play with all of them. Wow. He's that good. And so people, thanks to ESPN, this whole country will have the opportunity to watch Lomachenko against Mariaga, a terrific young fighter from Colombia, Saturday night on ESPN. And everybody around the world has signed up for this fight except one country, Russia. Putin, no, that's the truth.
Really?
Putin has banned Lomachenko from being seen in Russia because he's Ukrainian. And in sympathy, the White House has banned ESPN for Saturday night because Lomachenko is Ukrainian, and Trump always does what Putin asks him to do.
Interesting.
Wow, Bob Arum dropping major headlines on Jalen and Jacoby. Oh, my goodness. The best prospect he's ever seen in over 50 years. The political updates from Russia to the White House. We're going to be trending the next 48 hours into this fight.
That's why you have me on.
No question. And it's one thing for you to heap that level of praise of Lomachenko, but he also has stated that he wanted his name to be invoked every time the conversation of boxing comes up, almost like he's synonymous with the sport. Do you think he can actually reach that level?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anybody, really the truth, I've never seen anybody this good. Offense and defense, since Ali. I'm talking about the Ali that existed before that 3.5-year layoff when he was not allowed to fight. That Ali that beat Liston, that beat Cleveland Williams, that beat Terrell, that Ali was unbelievable. Great defensive fighter, but always put on the offense. Lomachenko, in his way, is a throwback, and I've never seen a fighter that had the weapons that he does.
We saw the Pacquiao-Horn fight in Australia. It was an excellent fight. I watched every single second of it. It went back and forth. It was a great fight, and it came down to a decision, a very controversial decision that was awarded to Horn. Since then, 5 independent judges have scored the fight themselves after the fact, and they've all scored it for Horn. What do you think about that controversial finish to that fight?
Well, I was there, so I'm watching it not on a television screen. I'm watching it live and in person at first row ringside. And when I got in the ring after the fight, I had scored it 6 rounds to 6. And I gave Pacquiao the victory because that 9th round, I made it a 10-8 round. So I had Pacquiao winning by 1 point. It was a very close fight. The judges scored the 11th round for Horn. I scored the 11th round for Pacquiao. If the 11th round goes to Horn, it's a 7-5 fight. It wasn't a robbery. I mean, Teddy was seeing that fight.
He was a little fired up about it.
Yeah, he was seeing that fight, honestly, one way. Tim Bradley, who was doing the fight with him, was telling everybody it was a very, very close fight. I mean, you could argue that Pacquiao won the fight, but it was certainly not a robbery.
You could also say there's some interest in a rematch. Is that something that you think we could see?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, Manny told me this week. Headline news again.
Everybody listen, Bob Arum's here.
That he's not retiring, and he wants the rematch. And now we're negotiating with the Philippine Senate to figure out when they're going to do a recess so Manny can fight the rematch, and hopefully that rematch will also be on ESPN.
Great, and hopefully we'll get another visit from you, Mr. Arum.
There isn't anything in boxing that you haven't seen or been a part of. In 1976, you actually helped arrange a fight between Muhammad Ali and a Japanese wrestler. Fast forward to August 26. Do you think Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor is bad for boxing?
Jalen, you were a great athlete. LeBron James is a great athlete. If I put either of you in with Anthony Joshua, the heavyweight champion, he would destroy you. It's a different.
He's a monster.
It's a different sport. The best way to make money, in my opinion, is to lay the odds, give $700 to win $100, and put it on Floyd Mayweather. It's the greatest return that you're going to make on money. McGregor has as much chance to beat Floyd Mayweather as I do. None.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We're very excited about the fight. Thank you for inviting me. I'll be there with my wife. I'll be there.
You're going to see, and you'll never forget seeing Lomachenko, and the whole card at the Microsoft Theater is terrific. The U.S. Olympian Michaela Mayer will be a first professional fight. The card is loaded with great fighters. 2 fights, Beltran and Vasquez and Lomachenko-Mariaga, will be on ESPN1 starting at 10 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. in the West. And all of the rest of the fights will be on the ESPN app.
We'll be watching and we'll be there. Thank you so much for coming through.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
For those of you that are new to the show, you probably don't know that Jalen Rose has passion for a few things in life. His family, the game of basketball, his friends, statues, and lobsters. We have lobster news. Professional golfer Tiger Woods was in the Bahamas, and he was free diving for lobsters, and he tweeted this picture of one of the prized lobsters that he pulled from the ocean. Jalen Rose, are you more impressed with the size of the lobster or the size of the surprisingly yoked Tiger Woods?
Tiger's on my corner first and foremost, okay? Anytime there's athlete and or entertainer and lobster, I need to be invited. That's one.
Okay, but hold on. You would never free dive for lobsters.
No, I wouldn't, but I'll be in the boat when he brings it out of the water.
Okay.
I'll get out the scissors and get to work. That's first and foremost. Second, way to represent for the semi and or retired athletes. You know, this week I saw the captain be called Derek Eater. I saw the Mamba be called Kobe Bryant. And now look
at Tiger
Woods.
Look at Tiger. He looks
in
good.
shape. I haven't seen somebody for public consumption this jack since Dave Chappelle a few years ago. Good for you, Tiger.
I love this picture of Tiger Woods. It just involves so many things that they're the part of the ethos of this show. Tiger Woods looks like he is getting ready to fight Floyd Mayweather, but Conor McGregor is actually getting ready to fight Floyd Mayweather. He's been sparring with Paulie Malignaggi, a recently retired boxer from Brooklyn. Well, Malignaggi went on ESPN, and he was talking about all the rounds and the spar they had. And he was just very cordial about the experience they had together in the ring until the McGregor camp put out a picture of Malignaggi hitting the floor, hitting the canvas in the sparring session. He felt it was misleading, and he is very upset about that. Jalen Rose, do you think he has legitimate beef?
No. Hey, Paul, newsflash. Floyd stands to make $300 million possibly in this fight.
That's a lot of money.
McGregor, $100 million. You're being paid to spar. Shut up and get your money and stop whining.
It's not. If it was me, I'd be like, how do you guys want? Is the lighting right? Do you want me on the ground? Do you want me to put some fake blood on this? Like, how do you guys want me to do this? Because it's about the fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. It's not about resuscitating Paul Malignaggi's career.
Have you ever seen the movie Rocky? He always finds a way to win. Okay? You went out on wax and you talked about your experience in the ring, and we talked about it on this very program. You was patting yourself on the back a whole heck of a lot.
He was like, in the middle rounds, I was tagging him. I was tagging him in the middle of rounds. Got a little tired.
And also, it's just a picture. It's not like it's a visual, but also, this is what happens in boxing. This is what makes the event bigger. When you see a guy that has 0 professional fights, as many as I do, you have to get the ticket sales ramped up. You have to get people excited about buying the pay-per-views. How do you get them excited about a guy that's never been in the ring to fight somebody that's 49-0?
Make it look like he can box. That's how you do it. If you got a guy that can't box, you put up some pictures to make it look like he can box, so people watch the boxing fight. That's how it works, Paul.
I don't care if he pushed you down. I don't care if he threw you down.
I don't care if someone else came in the ring and crawled behind him so he pushed you over him. Whatever it takes.
Hey, Paul. Not only should they put out the pictures, they should be forensic pictures. There should be white chalk around you. Okay? That's how this works.
I would have had him do the interview in head bandages like a mummy, with crutches, growing up. Be like, oh, man, McGregor, I'm just glad I survived. Moving on. Wardell Stephen Curry just keeps getting it. At the Ellie Mae Classic, Steph Curry's first shot off the tee went right into the cup. However, it was a cup holder on a golf cart. But Steph Curry settled. He shot a 4-over 74. Extremely impressive, putting him in position to potentially make the cut for the tournament. This has me thinking, though, Jalen, we've all talked about his prowess at golf. Are we looking at low-key the next great two-sport professional athlete?
It's already happening. And so once everybody watches our program today, they're going to reevaluate exactly what they've been covering these last couple of days. People are looking at this like some sort of novelty, that Steph Curry, who's making $40 million a year, the same summer he just won the championship in the NBA, is actually competing professionally. It's not even about whether he makes the cut or not. You can basically play golf as long as you can stand up.
Exactly.
Here's a guy that hasn't even entered the prime of his basketball career, has already been an MVP, has already been a unanimous MVP, has already won 2 championships, already competing at the elite level in golf. And lastly, it doesn't say a lot for the game of golf's popularity when the headline is about Steph, not about any of the other golfers.
It's a good point. It's a good point. But I have a theory about the region he grew up in. Like, if you grew up in Indiana, you automatically can hit a 15-footer. If you grew up in the Carolinas, you're a scratch golfer. It's just kind of the way it goes. It's regional. It's just regional. And also, like, he is a legit golfer. He's going to play professional basketball, let's say, until he's 40, right? You know, people can play older now, medicine, blah, blah, seems to keep himself in shape. And after 40, he could pivot into a professional golfing career if he wanted to. Do you think that could potentially happen?
I don't think it's going to be a pivot. It's already taken place. We saw a couple of other people try it, in particular Tony Romo, but he just wasn't able to endure the physical punishment that comes with football and still play at that elite level in golf. With the rules changes now in basketball, the freedom of movement, flagrant fouls aren't as prevalent, and he has a handle and he can shoot with range. He's going to be a guy that's playing on the contending team, winning championships. The Golden State Warriors, a super team that just added Kevin Durant, and playing professional golf at the exact same time. The only other people we saw do this, Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson.
Now, let's just take a look at Steph Curry's last, month and a half. He wins the NBA Finals in 5 games against LeBron James, and then he goes to Harrison Barnes' wedding, goes to an after party and chugs Bud Lights with young college kids, and now he's playing professional golf. He is living his life to the fullest. This is the summer of Steph, and I'm so here for it. One of those basketball players at the tail end of their careers, around his 40s, a gentleman by the name of Dirk Nowitzki. Now, he is still on the Mavericks, and he signed a $10 million 2-year deal. So he's making $5 million a year. Here's what he had to say about that deal. Quote, "It was my time to show again that I love being here. I gave him," meaning Mark Cuban, "a little bit of a deal maybe." Jalen, take us behind the curtain. How do these wink-wink deals work in the NBA?
We discussed this a lot on this program. If you look at the history of the NBA, there are certain Hall of Fame level players that maintain the level of respect and/or commitment to ownership. We saw this happen with Magic Johnson and Dr. Jerry Buss. We saw it fall out the opposite way with Michael Jordan and his situation with the Chicago Bulls that led him to Washington, that now has him being an owner in Charlotte. We saw Larry Bird ultimately end up in Indiana. And so a lot of these relationships become personal. And for Dirk, he's earned the trust of Mark Cuban and or vice versa, playing his entire career there, that you can take a lot less money right now because you know once Dirk retires, mark my words, we're talking about people being part owners. Dirk will be a part owner of the Dallas Mavs.
Wait, say that again, just so everyone knows where they heard it first.
Dirk will be a part owner of the Dallas Mavs. He will have his opportunity to wear a Cowboys jersey like Romo did and stand on the sideline as a 7-footer with shoulder pads and a helmet. He's going to get the proper send-off, and that's why he's allowing Mark Cuban to save money now on a roster in a salary cap-driven sport so they can hope to put a team together around him so he can get some sort of swan song.
So in these sort of back office deals that we know Cuban likes to do in nightclubs, so let's say they're in the back room of a nightclub, whatever nightclub that may be in Dallas, and Dirk says, and Mark Cuban says, I'm going to pay you $5 million a year. And Dirk says, wait a second, I'm worth about $25 million a year. And he says, here's how it works. When you retire, I'm going to make you a part owner. I'm going to make you an assistant coach. Every day that you're alive on this planet, you will be cashing checks from my organization. But that's not written on paper. That's like a handshake thing.
That's not written on paper. It's almost like an NFL contract on toilet paper. It has to be something that nobody can trace that took place, because that level of collusion can't be agreed upon in the NBA. But we all know, and mark my words, when Dirk retires, and by the way, not an assistant coach, not a head coach, not somebody that's just sitting in the front row and getting tickets for the rest of his life. I'm talking about ownership, and rightfully so.
Well, remember where you heard it first here on Jalen Jacoby. Yep. Something interesting happened yesterday with one of my favorite human beings alive. Yesterday was Thursday. On Instagram and Twitter, people get to call it Throwback Thursday. The great Nasir Jones, better known as Nas, one of my favorite MCs, top five. He posted this picture of himself quite some time ago. Looks like late 90s maybe. And who's alongside him? But none other than the man who's often alongside me, Jalen Anthony Rose. Jalen, what is going on in this picture?
First off, this made me almost want to join IG. Shout to everybody that liked it. I love and appreciate you, Queen Latifah. What up, though, to Nicki Minaj? But here's the thing. Nas Escobar, one of the greatest MCs to ever hold a microphone, one of the best lyricists, one of the best to ever hold a pen and put it to a piece of paper. A guy that can actually say he took down the great Jay-Z in a battle. For him to even know my name is an honor for me. So for me to all of a sudden be in Los Angeles, California at the Century Club, not having to wait behind the velvet ropes, and all of a sudden I'm in the VIP and I'm standing next to Nas, and I'm not going to tell you some of the things that was happening in the VIP.
What was happening?
I think you could kind of look at us and pretty much tell.
I can.
We were meme mugging. That's one of the things we were doing.
Why you had that look on your face? Like, I know you. You're a happy-go-lucky guy. You're talking this story about how you're in the VIP and you're having a great time. But when the camera comes out, it's all of a sudden it's...
That's straight 90s. The only thing was missing was a piece of tissue in my nose. You know how that go. The Karl Kani gear. And here's the thing. That's such a throwback classic picture. I appreciate the post. We got to get him on the program. Matter of fact, I got to get him on the wall as one of the immortals.
Shout out.
Jalen Rose,
what up,
Ryan Tannehill was scrambling to his right, was not touched by another human being, but still managed to injure his left knee that kept him out of some games last season. There's a lot of rumors swirling as details are coming in. Maybe he needs surgery. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's out for a while. Maybe not. Maybe they're going to reach out to Kaepernick. Maybe Jay Cutler's going to come out of media retirement. Maybe they should just stick with Matt Moore. If you were the Dolphins, what would you do?
Ooh, this is a big decision for the owner, Stephen Ross. I would say because Jay Cutler has a relationship with the offensive coordinator, Adam Gase, who was his coordinator in Chicago, and he had a relatively good season, I would probably use him at the pole position. If he's unavailable because he signed to do TV, and or you look back at the picture that was posted of him where he looked out of shape, I would consider that. If he's, for whatever reason, in shape, however, you need somebody that could come to camp at this point of the year and be able to call plays in the huddle immediately. They don't have time to necessarily teach someone the offense. So with all things equal, you have to give Cutler the edge. But other than that, you obviously have to go with Colin Kaepernick, who for some strange reason, it's like 100 quarterbacks in the NFL, and he isn't one.
I know. It's every time a starter gets injured, it's like, oh, we need to call Kaepernick, but no one will hire him as a backup. It's really odd. It's like he's just in an emergency, we'll go with Kaepernick, but we wouldn't just plan on having Kaepernick in our camp to groom him into a backup role. We also have this. We had the Hall of Fame game yesterday, and we had Jerry Jones debuting this haircut. This is possibly the worst haircut I have ever seen in my entire life. How is someone this rich look this foolish?
It looks like a when keeping it toupee goes bad?
It's just, it looks like natural hair. It's just odd. And this is what it tells me. Whenever someone has a hairstyle like this or wears clothes that look so silly you don't understand how they even came to be, it makes me feel like there's too many yes men in his life. There's just too many people in Jerry Jones's life that are just around him telling him how great he is, trying to, just sycophants, trying to get some of that Texas money. Here's the thing. He needs someone in his life to look at him in the mirror and say, Jerry, you either put a hat on or I take all of that off with these clippers, because that is not how a grown man should look.
I mean, when your team is worth $4 billion, pretty sure it's not hard to find yes men. I remember seeing footage of somebody in the suite during a game cleaning his glasses for him, probably like he couldn't do them for himself. So with that being said, again, Jerry Jones, and I talk about people that continue to change their hairstyle frequently, especially men. That's when you're going through an identity crisis. There's a little insecurity there. It's like, wait a minute, we're back. The Cowboys. We got Dak. We got Ezekiel. We got Dez. But wait a minute, I won the championships in the 90s. So he's trying to figure out the balance of both. So that's where you get almost the mop type haircut that looks like a bowl that's too long.
Someone just needs to give him a hat. Just, we got hats all over the locker room. Jerry, just put this on. Zach Lowe is reporting.
Get low. Get low.
That the Brooklyn Nets are taking hydration of their players very seriously. So seriously that they are tracking the color of their players' urine. Jalen Rose, when you were in the league, did anyone track the color of your urine?
Absolutely not, but they definitely drug tested me multiple times. So you can call that whatever you want.
It wasn't the color. It was the chemical composite of the urine.
Whether it was random, whatever.
They saw that picture of you and Nas, and they were like, we need to get him a test.
No doubt.
We need to get him a test.
When they saw me in that picture with Nas, that was a failed drug test right from the beginning. And then I had the nerve to make a quote when I was going to Detroit. They was like, yo, so what you going to do in the city? I'm like, yo, we don't get there until after 2 a.m. And in Detroit, ain't nothing open at that hour except hotels, jails, and legs. And they was like, oh, that's his second drug test.
Patrick Beverley, now that he is a Clipper, is saying, you know what? I requested a trade from the Rockets. I requested this trade. Jalen Rose, how much do you believe Patrick Beverley requested the trade from the Rockets?
I believe him so much that he needs more people. Here's how that works.
Explain how it works.
There are only clearly 3 people in the league that control their own destiny because they have no trade clauses. Bron, Dirk, and Melo. Mm-hmm. Then there are other elite level superstars that just know they're not getting traded. And then there was everybody else like me. You have zero control of your destiny. And so there is a time where I wake up in Toronto and we're playing against the Knicks that night. And before you know it, I'm leaving my spot in Toronto, and at the game I'm sitting on the Knicks bench flying back with them that night. Okay? So he hears the rumors. He's on the inside. He understands that they about to get who? Chris Paul? Hey, I want out of here anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It's
James
like breaking up with a girl. It's like breaking up with a girl that you know wants to break up with you. That's what it is. It's breaking up with a girl first before she breaks up with you. It's like, oh, I asked for that trade. They didn't trade me. Why do NBA athletes feel that there's something negative about being traded?
It's not necessarily NBA athletes. It's the stigma that the public puts around it. That's why certain terms I want to get retired. For example, there's a documentary coming on about Darko, and the term bust is going to be used a lot. And then I look deeper into the box score. I'm like, he made over $40 million playing basketball. To me, a bust is somebody that doesn't have any staying power and does not get a second contract for sure. And so being traded has that stigma to the media. You hear terms like, oh, being shipped out, or stuff like that. And so as a player, you start to take it personal instead of realizing that the team that wants you now is where you want to be. They're welcoming you. They're giving you a press conference. You're on the front of the newspaper. That's the squad you need to be running with, not the one that was willing to trade you.
Charles Oakley has accepted a plea deal in his case with Madison Square Garden, and he is now being, I can't believe I'm saying this, banned from MSG for a year. Is this fair for this Knicks legend?
It's a mockery, and it's unfortunate that Oak had to be involved with the shenanigans that took place by James Dolan that ultimately led to him basically being tracked from the time that he walked into the facility at MSG till he went to his chair. And this is what I love about Oak. This is why this is my dude, my OG. People don't realize Oak is really tough and to smack anybody. Also, he's a really good cook. But with that being said, just think about Oak actually positioned himself where he could be in earshot of being earshot of James Dolan while he was at the game. So I'm going to not only heckle him, I'm going to make sure he hears me. Now, that was really classic. And so with that being said, it's unfortunate that this is happening. But after this ends, he'll be back. But more
he'll be courtside. He'll be courtside.
He'll be at the games on the road. That's what he's going to do, in particular in Cleveland.
Oh, I love it. Also, we have this. During a rain delay in Chicago, the Cubs and the Diamondbacks bullpens had a very interesting time. They were mocking fishing each other. There was some bobsled going on, and there was a dance-off. And then it all sort of came to a crescendo with the Cubs relievers coming out in masks. There was an owl mask, a unicorn mask, a chicken mask. Jalen, when you were a professional athlete, did your locker room have a dozen different masks in it?
Not at all, but there are a couple of masks that I keep that are classic.
Oh, no.
A Jason mask and the Obama mask. But here's the all-time classic one, the Ronald Reagan mask. If you don't know, now you know.
Derek Carr is expecting a lot from his new teammate, Marshawn Lynch. He said, quote, he's going to run through some people's faces. Do you expect Marshawn Lynch to underperform expectations this year, or is he going to run through faces?
I think he's going to run through faces. The problem is, at this point of his career, I don't think he's going to be able to do it for 16 games.
Good point, Mr. Rose. I'm excited to see how that plays out. We have a quick programming alert right now. On Tuesday, August 8th, which is 8/8, ESPN is going to transform ESPNU into ESPN 8. The OCHO. It'll get a new graphic look, and for 21 hours it will run non-traditional programming like the Firefighter Challenge, Roller Derby, Trampoline, Dodgeball. This is all a nod to a joke in the movie Dodgeball about the network, the OCHO, and now we are going to realize the OCHO. Jalen Rose, very quickly explain the plot to Dodgeball.
Oh, I played Dodgeball multiple times, so the movie basically mirrors that. You got to be elusive while somebody trying to throw the ball at you as hard as they can.
Great work. We have a simple motto on this program. It is to give the people what they want. Part of giving the people what they want is opening up our Twitter feed, going into our subreddit, and listening to our voicemails and getting questions from you, our audience. The first question we have is from our Twitter feed. This is from Asian Hoosier 2. Shout out to him. He always sends us questions. Date of the first Harden CP3 got into a heated argument story, December 3rd. Do you take the over or the under?
I take the over. I don't think that they're going to have a heated disagreement for public consumption. What's going to take place is Chris Paul is competitive clearly on the defensive end, unlike not many players in the entire game, regardless of position. So what's going to have to take place for James Harden, because I do think they're going to be the second best backcourt in the game behind the Splash Brothers, is that he can't behave like a turnstile, in particular in situations that are critical to wins and losses. And when you're as competitive as CP3 and you go to Houston for a one-year deal, you're only going there because you think y'all possibly have what it takes to compete against the Golden State Warriors. So that's what he's there to bring. I don't think, however, it's going to be something that he now expects him to be an all-NBA defender, so he's going to get mad at him every time he gets scored on. But when you don't play with a guy, you understand that he doesn't play defense. But when you play with a guy, you realize he really doesn't play defense. And I think he's going to learn that early. But James Harden is such an explosive weapon, one of the best weapons that I've seen in the game. You don't see many guys that can lead the league in total points and then lead the league in assists. He's done that. Tiny Archibald comes to mind. So they're going to get along just fine, and I can't wait to watch them ball out.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the show just like this.
Hey, Andre from Melbourne, Australia, phoning in. I'm not going to single anyone out so I can get on the show. Shout out everyone that's ever been or worked on Jalen Jacoby. I've got a soft move or boss move for you. Buying a minivan with no kids. Please say yes, because I did it yesterday. I've joined the minivan mafia. Thank you.
First of all, shout out to all of our Australian brethren. We have so many Australian listeners. Big shout out to you guys. I love traveling to Australia because they speak English. Moving on. Minivans are always a boss move. You don't have to have kids to join the minivan mafia. It helps. But here's the thing. When you go to Costco or you buy furniture or you buy bulk anything or you want to pick up a bunch of friends or you want to go on a road trip or you want to go camping, there are so many different scenarios in which having a minivan is going to help you. That is always a boss move to have a minivan. Welcome to the Minivan Mafioso. We accept you with open arms because we are a very welcoming community. Next, we are going to go over to our Twitter feed. This is from Rashid Zada. Question: taking a handful of napkins from Starbucks to compensate for the overpriced drinks. Is that a soft move or a boss move? Jalen Rose, here's the thing. Next to the napkins is milk. I don't understand why people just don't go to Starbucks and fill up cups of milk and then leave. I don't know why that doesn't happen. I don't know. There's free milk right there. You know, why don't people just take the milk from Starbucks?
I don't know if that's milk, sir. I think it's half and half.
Okay. Have you ever had cereal with half and half?
I have, of course.
I have too. It's pretty good.
No question about it. It makes it sweeter.
Finally, we have this tweet from T. Grizzly. T. Grizzly has been getting lots of shout-outs, and he appreciates the love from this very program, Jalen Jacoby. Where's T. Grizzly from?
Detroit Rock City. Rest in peace, Blade Icewood. This is what he was hoping to see. Detroit, stand up. You guys know about M. Y'all know about Nickel 9. Y'all know about Big Sean. It's T. Grizzly's turn. Stand up. First day out. Check it out. T-Troit. Check it out. Doughboy's Cash Out is next.
T. Grizzly, salute. Thank you so much. We'll always continue to give you exclusive content on the podcast for our podcast listeners that we will always represent for. Shout out. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. We'll be back on Monday. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Rate us and like us on iTunes. And party this weekend. We'll be back on Monday.